What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again. Hope you all are doing okay. This time, we got Yishai of Tomorrow's Rain. Thank you so much for being here, man. It's really exciting to talk to you today.
Thank you.
Yep. It's so I really want to know this new album, Hollow. It's really, really beautiful. I really want to know what the thought process was making this album. How did Hollow sort of come to be?
Um, when we say nasty words to each other in the band, we used to say that we beat Axl Rose with Chinese democracy because it took us almost 20 years.
Wow.
The whole process started around 2001.
Really?
Yes. When Mao Appelbaum, nowadays he's a famous mastering engineer in LA, working with Rob Halford, Ingrid Malmsteen, and artists like that. He's actually my childhood friend from Israel, and he was living in Israel. We started a band together after our previous bands broke up, and we were both, let's say, pretty much in a bad shape, in a bad situation in our lives, and it all reflected in the music. And step by step, we started to write songs. By the time of 2005, we found ourselves called Moonskin, and we played shows with Epica and with some local bands as well here in Israel. And by 2006, I got married. My life changed a little bit, and I thought that I can't sing those words. I can't relate to this kind of heavyweight suffering anymore in the lyrics because I'm not singing like that anymore. And I tried to take a different shape of my life, building my business around the music as a label and distributor, but less, as an artist. And I couldn't, see myself singing those songs every day. So we more or less split up. And about 2010, something like that, don't get me exactly in the year, but 2010, 2011, which is more or less a year like our divorce, I started to feel like I want to do it, I want to make it. I mean, we had a really good stuff, and it's a pity that the songs will be lost forever. Mm-hmm. So step by step, I started to pick it up, and piece by piece, going a little bit, and called Raphael, the guitar player, meeting with him, a little bit, write another song, and then another couple of months passed by, and another song. And in the year of 2013, we opened for Dark Tranquility here in Israel, and that's where things started to go serious. We said, okay, we do it full time. We're going full force on this. It took us like 2 years to write the album, and about one another year to record the album, picking up all the guests and stuff like that, and do the label shopping, and here we are.
Wow, that's a really interesting story. I've never heard, like, every time I ask a band how the making of an album was, it was like, well, we've been working on it for a year, 2 years.
Blah, blah, blah,
Yeah. Wow, you guys are the real veterans. I give you a lot of credit. Just to think that this album was in the making when I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
But now, collaborating with so many great members, such as Aaron from My Dying Bride, and Jeff Loomis, and Fernando from Moonspell, and so many great, a really great collaboration. I was calling this, and I mean it as a compliment, a very depressing version of Metal Allegiance. That's what I was calling it.
Someone told me, are you trying to make the depressive metal version of Avantasia?
Yeah, or Roadrunner United.
Yeah.
So, working with so many different artists, did that teach you new things, and did that open more doors for the band to experiment with your style a little bit?
I have to tell you, when you're making this at the age of 40, and you're in the music business for so many years, thinking about how many copies the album will sell, or will it open us doors to new interviews. I'm not doing this music in order to be the next Catatonia. I mean, I'm not there. I'm doing this music for a totally different reason. And having all those people in the album was more like taking the people that we want to work with and have a little bit of them inside our body of art, like every one of them to bring something from himself into our body of art and have a little bit of different color. When you hear Greg solo, Macintosh, then you can realize it's Greg Macintosh. I mean, and et cetera, with all the other guests. Mm-hmm. So the whole idea was to make it more interesting artistically. I wouldn't lie. I'm sure it created an interest.
Yes.
But that was not the idea. Because, I can tell you one thing. My day job is a metal promoter in Israel in the last 20 years. Mm-hmm. I did shows here of almost everyone, from Megadeth and Whitesnake to black metal bands. I could bring a lot more people and bigger people if that was my intention. But that was not my intention. My intention was to do something that fits the concept of Tomorrow's Rain and make it more interesting by working with people that I appreciate. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. Aaron for My Dying Bride, for example, he is a good example because I never worked with him. I never brought My Dying Bride to play here a show. But I grew up listening to, the first EPs and As the Flowers Withers and Turn Loose the Swans. And that album was really big influence on me. I mean, so I can tell you, back to your question, that the influence of some of those guests was not necessarily coming from the part they took in the album, but more from the things they did in their lives. For example, we could not be where we are today without Gothic of Paradise Lost, or without Wolfheart of Moonspell, because that album gave us the ability to think that if a band from Portugal can make it without a grand product, just out of being creative, authentic, and real, we can do it also from Israel. It's not a door that you cannot go into. And that was in 95 when I realized it. Like, if these guys can do it from Portugal, we can do something from our country as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You mentioned that this album had a huge concept behind it, and have you always needed the music itself to come up with the lyrics, or does the concept of Tomorrow's Rain help dictate the direction of the music as well?
Change from song to song. It really changed from song to song because we're talking about almost 20 years of writing. Mm-hmm. So you can guess that some songs, lyrics were ready first, and they were there sometimes for a couple of years. And then we took them to the lyrics to the studio and started to make out of it. Some other cases, someone came with ideas musically, and I started to sing something that came to my mind spontaneously on the studio. It's really changed from song to song, but there is a line between all the songs, and that's the important thing. I mean, it's not necessarily so important that all the songs in the album will be written in a way that lyrics first, music first, together in rehearsal or at home. What is important is, if you listen to the album, to all the songs, if you feel that they are bonded together. If there is a connection between the lyrics and the music. That's, for me, as a listener, what I'm looking for. If there is a connection between the music and the lyrics, I don't really care if he writes this first or that first. I care about what I hear in my ears when I listen to the record. Mm-hmm. So I think and I hope that we did it right.
Do you like to leave the music open to interpretation, or are you trying to engage the listener into what the album is really about?
I mean, I feel your question, but I think that there is something more to understand it a little bit more. Can you go further with that idea?
Do you want to engage the listener into what you're singing about? Is that sort of the goal of Tomorrow's Rain, to sort of pass a message on, or could people take this record in and really interpret it in their own way?
Well, I mean, we put out what we felt we have to, and if someone thinks that it's better for him just to go ahead with the atmosphere, with the global atmosphere, and enjoy the global atmosphere without paying attention to the lyrics, it's also okay, But of course, as a writer, and I wrote almost all the lyrics in the album, what is more flattering, what is more, satisfied for you as an artist, is that someone will come to you and saying real things that happen to him after going and reading your lyrics. I mean, it's one thing to hear a comment like, I really like the production, the album is cool, or I really like the sound of the snare, and it's another totally different level of feedback to hear listen, that song Misery Rain, it saved my ass in a bad time in life. That's a totally different world, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, let's say we had a target. There was no target. The target was to deliver what we wanted to deliver in our hearts, put it out in the record.
Yeah.
When you put your art out, the listener can take it whatever he wants. You lose control,
Yeah, absolutely. But if a listener really wants to be engaged in the story, they should start off with Trees and end with The Weeping Song. It's not like they can really approach this album for any angle, right? It's not like they could start off with Misery Rain or Hollow or A Year I Would Like to Forget or something like that.
So if someone wants to get the whole impression of what we are about, you need to listen to the album from Trees to The Weeping Song.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
It's an album. It's not a collection of songs. It's an album like in the old way of an album. It's an album with a story, with a beginning, middle part, and an end.
Yeah. The word I call it is I wouldn't consider this album to be shuffle friendly.
No.
Yep. Now, when it comes to being inspired to write lyrics, does the inspiration come out of nowhere sometimes, or is there kind of research involved into figuring out how to write what you're going to sing about?
You mean about the lyrics?
Yeah.
Look at our life in the last 3 years prior to the album, and you don't need any inspiration. You choose the case, and we say yes. We had deaths in the family, we had addictions, we had ripped off by women, we had fighting with inner demons, we had losing people in our families, whatever you want, cancer, everything. Just add to it. Everything on top. Every time we fought okay, everything happened, some other trouble came to another band member. And I was the lucky one, I got 3. So it's actually no need to dig deeper for inspiration. The inspiration comes to you. You know?
It's funny. I interviewed Orphan Land a couple of times, and they said coming from Israel that it's funny because there's a spiritual entity in Israel, there's a political entity, there's so much love, but there's so much anxiety, there's so much emotion just coming in your region alone. That inspiration is everywhere you look.
Yeah, you don't. If you want to think about politics, you don't need to look further. It's everywhere around. You want to think about terror? It's everywhere around. It's. I always thought that coming from Israel is a great platform, and I'm not saying this as a compliment. I'm saying this as a bad thing. That Israel is a great platform for metal bands and hardcore bands, because they have so many troubles and shit to think about that you just need to pick up what you want to think about.
Yeah, and it really, what's funny is because so much metal seems to be coming out of Israel, a lot of people have been calling Israel now Sweden with sand.
Oh, come on. Beside Orphan Land, who did it really, really good in the world.
I mean, the Secret Saints.
Huh?
The Secret Saints, the rock band based in Israel, I think they opened for Guns N' Roses. They were really good.
Which band?
The Secret Saints?
The Secret Saints.
Yeah.
I never heard that name.
Yeah. I think Eternal Grey is from Israel.
Eternal Grey is fantastic, but it's 20 years ago.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah. Eternal Grey guitar player Dori Bar-Or is the producer of our album.
Oh wow, small world. I think Salem is also from Israel.
Salem, yes, but the last album they did again 15 years ago. And Neil from Salem is our drummer. And I was managing Salem for 20 years. I mean, Salem is actually the first band that really, really did it well over the world between 92 to 96. They were really big.
But I'd imagine there's still a very active metal scene in Israel right now, though, right?
I wouldn't say it's a very active metal scene. No, I wouldn't say that.
Oh, really? Is it just because it's a smaller country, so like everybody would know each other there?
I tell you the thing. It's very hard to keep a metal band in Israel for a long term because you need to fight harder in order to get everything. It's harder, you know. You want to go on tour, you need to pay flights. You want to go and record an album, most of the bands do it outside Israel. So again, you need to fly. Labels are very skeptical about signing bands from Israel. The local crowd, they sing so many shows of metal bands from abroad. Blame it on me, but that's the situation. That every month coming a band from abroad. And when you have like, on top of me, 3 other promoters bringing metal, and within 1 month, in a small country like Israel, you have Behemoth, Mastodon, Arch Enemy, Enslaved, Swallow the Sun, and Rotting Christ in 30 days. It doesn't leave a lot of space for local bands to sell tickets.
Yeah.
So it's hard. They need to sacrifice a lot in order to make it. So people lose the motivation and leave.
Has working up as a promoter in Israel, though, for the metal scene, has that also influenced on how you apply into your own art?
No. I think it just made me less naive about the music business.
That helps.
Because that's what?
That helps a lot.
Yeah, because, you know, working as a promoter for 20 years and working with everyone, you see a lot of things that as a listener, you don't want to see.
Well,
as a fan, you don't want to see this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I guess you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. You know you knew what not to do for the making of Hollow.
That's one thing. And on the other thing, sometimes, you know, you see your idols in a very different way. To be honest.
Yeah.
So it teaches you a lot of things. It makes you less naive, and you know what to do and what not to do. But you know, sometimes it's also good to make mistakes. But even as a promoter, you're making a mistake sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's good to sometimes learn from your own mistakes. Doing mistakes is okay, you know. So I believe sometimes you think that you know how the system works, and then comes a band out of nothing and prove you that you don't know how it works. It's also happened, you know. If I would tell you that like 15 years ago, that will come a band from Sweden, from a grindcore and death metal background, mixing Blue Easter Cult with Merciful Fate, and they will sell tons of albums and the manager of Metallica will sign them. Will you believe me? Probably not. Here come Ghost.
Yeah.
So, you'll never know.
The world works in very, very mysterious ways, and I think that's the beauty of art.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Really great to talk to you. Just, is there a chance maybe Tomorrow's Rain will be willing to travel, and is there a chance you could bring this beautiful music to the States one day?
Hopefully, I wish. Hopefully.
We would love to have you here.
Just let the world to go back to normal. I mean, it's so depressing. You know, it's. I know that in the States also the situation is pretty bad.
Yep. I mean, I think it's fair to say that right now what's going on is that the world is just having a nervous breakdown.
Yeah.
But when the world does return to normal, could we be expecting maybe eventually Tomorrow's Rain to be coming to the United States when this is over? It'll eventually be over.
Yeah, sure, sure. We want to do it. We wish to do it, and we will do it. We want to do it.
Awesome.
It's very important, of course, of course.
We would love to have you here. But thank you so much, Yishai. Everybody,
Thank you.
We are here with Yishai of Tomorrow's Rain. Be sure to pick up Hollow if you haven't already. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time.